Okay.
You're in
Let's
business
start.
now?
Let's start at business. Are we
Today
on?
is Tuesday, June the 30th, 1998. And my name is Seymour Rochestie,
And they call you Cy.
and they call me Cy. And you?
And I am Reita Rochestie.
I
And
was,
we're married 57 years.
it'll
July
be
the 6th.
July the 6th is right.
Wow.
I was born in Etna, New Jersey in 1916 at Petty College Hospital,
What's your birthday?
December 5th, 1916.
And I was born in Philadelphia. And I was born in 1921. And my birthday is September the 18th.
Right. I am one of three brothers. My oldest brother was Barney, born in 1902. The next brother was Dave, born in 1908. My mother and father came over from Russia. My father was born in 1878.
What was his name?
His name was Hyman Rochestie.
How do you spell that?
Rochesky. Married my mother, Anna. They came
What
over.
was her maiden name?
Anna Wisselman. They
And how
were
do you,
both born in Russia.
how do you spell Wisselman?
Wisselman.
And they came over from Russia.
Russia. In the early 1900s. As a matter
Why?
of fact, it could have been about 1898 or 1899, because my brother was born, the oldest brother was born here in 1902.
Why did they come over?
Why did they get away from the pogrom? My father had two brothers,
What were their names?
Sam Rochestie and Isidore Rochestie. He brought them over and their families.
Did you ever hear any stories of what happened in Russia before they came over about the pogroms?
No, I don't remember the stories. I used to sit in and listen to some of the stories of my mother's brothers tell the stories of the pogroms, but,
You have to tell them, how did you get to Rochester?
I know, we'll get there.
Ah,
We'll get there. So your parents came from Russia. Where in Russia did they come from?
Minsk, Gubernia. That's all I know. Somewhere around Minsk.
That's probably what Minsk Gubernia means.
Gubernia means town or community.
Vicinity nearby.
That's right.
And did they come by themselves? You said that your
they
father
came-
and your mother, were
they
they
came-
married in Russia? Or
They were married in Russia.
And they came first and then afterwards brought your
Brought
father?
his two brothers over.
Okay.
And that was Sam and Izzy.
Right.
And so were they married or were they children? Were they younger?
They were,
Was your father,
I think
the oldest?
I think my father was the oldest.
Okay.
And he died in 1925 at the age of 52. So it must have been 1873 that he was born instead of 1878.
What did your father die from?
He died from arterial sclerosis, hardening of the arteries, as they used to call it that
Right.
time.
And when he came over, so you think that he was the oldest of his
I
brothers?
think he was the oldest, and they bought a farm in Jersey, Etna, New Jersey, which is right outside of Hightstown. And he farmed there
From 1902.
from 1902 until, let me see, I was 9 when I died, so it's 1925 when they sold the farm.
tell them what you did on the farm.
What did you
Oh,
do? on
me?
the farm?
I did everything.
So you were there until you were 8, right?
Nine.
9. And
Nine.
your brothers were older.
Yes, they were older. As a matter of fact, my brother Barney was going to Rutgers at that particular time, and my brother Dave was in high school, and I was in public school.
What language did your parents speak to you in home?
Broken English and Yiddish.
So do you speak some Yiddish?
Oh yeah,
You do.
oh yeah.
Did you grow up at home speaking Yiddish?
No,
No.
no.
So you can understand it and speak it, but not read it, or
I can't read it.
can't read
I
it,
can't read it.
but you can understand
I
it?
can understand. Look, I can pick out most of it, conversational Yiddish,
Uh-huh,
but as far as the real Yiddish, no.
no,
Tell them what you did on the farm.
Yeah, what did you on the
What did your family do
What
on
I
the
want
farm?
to farmers, they were truck farmers, what they call truck farmers. Truck farmers means that they grew potatoes, they grew wheat, they grew vegetables, and she wants me to tell of an incident. Across the road from us were two Polish boys, twins. And one day the two twins and myself went into the chicken coop. And we took all the eggs from the chicken coop. We made a hole in the ground and we made chicken egg mud pies. And when Mom came out to go to the chicken coop to get some eggs, I stopped her on the road. I said, the chickens didn't lay any eggs. My rear end felt it after that. That was one incident.
So you got along with the Polish boys who lived across?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
So they weren't anti-Semitic?
Not at that particular time. There was no anti-Semitism. And,
Did your brothers were all born here?
yeah,
Did they have any traits from Russia that your parents?
no, my farmer, he was a farmer.
Yeah.
Like most of the immigrants at that particular time, they were just farmers.
So when your mom would make dinner and she'd cook for you, did she cook traditional Russian ethnic kind of food, or did she make?
Yiddish, yeah,
Yeah,
she made the regular, the stuff that Friday night was the regular Friday night, and she'd have to go to Trenton to get the chickens cut their necks by the shepherd. There was no shepherd in our town, so she had to kosher the chickens. Yeah, they kept it kosher home.
Uh-huh.
And when my father died in 1925, we sold the farm and moved to New York to be close to her family, Mom's family in Brooklyn. There was Mom's sister Sarah, our brother Moshe. There was a brother-in-law Yitzhak, and Foxendulia. Foxendulia was the wife, second wife of my uncle.
Okay.
And so
she-
there was Anna, somebody else than Misha?
There was Anna, Moshe, and,
Yes.
oh, there was one more, I'll think of the name, who was married to Foxendulia. That was her name, that was a comical thing that went on in our family with her.
What happened?
She was always the scapegoat of all the jokes.
Because of her name.
Because, well, that's the name they gave her. I
Yeah.
don't know what her never knew what her real name was. And I used to listen to the stories at that time that they would tell of the old time, what went on in Russia. Every Friday night it was a gathering of the family. That was the ritual. Everybody got together Friday night
For Shabbat?
for Shabbat, and then after dinner they had to sit and talk.
Right.
And being I was the youngest there, they used to tell stories, but they spoke in Yiddish and Russian and Polish.
Right.
So whenever they told a story and they would say it in Russian, I would say, feta, feta, bus meintis. What does it mean? Then you have to stop and explain it in Yiddish. Or if they said it in Polish, I have to stop, feta, feta, bus meintis. I had one uncle who was the greatest storyteller, and he was the one, feta Moshe. He was really a character. Now, what else? can I
So
think?
you
What
were
were their
talking
married
about
names?
your father's brothers.
Yeah.
Your father, was he close to his brothers? Did they come to the United States with him?
No, he brought them over.
He brought them over.
He brought them over and they went their separate ways. I don't know what Feta Izzy did, to be truthful with you,
Mhm.
because I never had any contact with his family. I never knew what was what.
Where were they? Did
They were someplace in New York, someplace, but there was no closeness there.
Mhm.
Uncle Sam, he became a hotel owner in the Catskills.
Mhm.
And as stories go, he would have a new partner every year. with the hotel, fleece them, and then get another partner for the following year.
Mhm.
But as far as showing us any favoritism, I can only remember one time that we went up there to meet Barney, who was coming down from Canada. He went on a vacation in Canada. And we were to meet him there at Loch Sheldrake. And we got there about 10 o'clock at night. We left there about 8 in the morning. And we were presented with a bill for the overnight stay and meals. So that was as far as Uncle Sam went
Nice.
with me. That was the end
That
of
was
him.
it?
That was nice family.
Nice family.
Right. Were they resentful of your father?
I never saw that, and nothing was ever mentioned
Not
about it,
very
but there
close.
was no closeness there at all.
Uh-huh.
No closeness at all.
Did their parents come to the United States when they immigrated, or did their parents stay in Russia?
Whose parents?
Hyman's parents. So
Oh, I don't know whatever happened to them. I never heard the stories of what happened to them.
Did you not ever know them?
No.
So they didn't, you don't think that they came to the United States?
No, they never came to you. Otherwise, I would have heard about them.
Mhm.
Now, on my mother's side, there was a close-knit...
What was your father like, by the way?
My father? Quiet man. A real quiet man. Went about doing his thing, and that was it. They...
Was he a farmer in Russia?
Yes, yes. To make a comparison, he was nowheres near as affectionate as you and I know our parents to be affectionate. The only affection that I got was probably from my mother. My father was all business and work and eat, sleep, work, sleep. That was his forte. But other than that, I don't recall anything in 9 years that I was
That's
alive
right.
while he was there that I saw.
No hugs or kisses?
No.
Do you remember when he died?
Do I remember when he died? Yes, I do remember when he died. I was in school, I came back from school. Of course, people were there, and then they told me that my father died. Of course, as a youngster, it doesn't make a big impact on you until later when you start to think back
Right,
that something's missing.
right.
That's about it.
Did your brother Barney remember your dad? Because he would have been much older. He would
Yes.
have been sick,
Yes.
close to 20.
Yes.
Did he have a different relationship with your dad?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because it was, I never saw that type of a relationship, or even with my brother Dave, I never
Right.
saw that type of relationship.
So was there someone in your growing up years that was like a father figure or an uncle, or was it on your mom's
No.
side?
No, to be truthful with you, I was on my own from age 9.
Mm-hmm.
Because after Pop died and we moved to New York, I was on my own.
Right.
My brother Dave was working, my brother Barney, both were away from home, so I was with Mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on my own.
They weren't real, like, big brotherly to you,
No.
looked out for you, paved the road
The
for
only
you?
one that may have shown a little affection to me was Dave, not Barney.
He was the middle brother.
Yeah.
Barney was yours.
And that's it.
He was a nicer one.
He was.
What did you do growing up? When did you move to New York?
When I was 9, and I went to finish public school and finished high school in New York,
In where in New York?
Brooklyn, Brownsville. If you ever heard the stories about Murder Incorporated in Brownsville, New York, that was the time and period that I was there.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember any stories about growing up? Anything stand out in particular during your teenage years? Did you get in
No.
trouble? Did you...
Did I have trouble? No. I had a wonderful high school memories. I had one particular teacher, an English teacher, who was also a drama teacher, and she got me involved in acting.
What was the incident about the plane with the figure on the seat next to you?
Oh, that's some time back. That comes later. That comes later. I finished high school, and I went to the University of Alabama.
How did you choose University of Alabama since you were living in New York?
Money. It was very, very inexpensive. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, I went to the University of Alabama, and I lived on $25 a month. That was for room and board and books and everything else.
Right.
I went there for over a year and a half, and then money ran out, so I had to quit.
Okay, go back a little bit to your childhood. You said that you observed the Sabbath. So you would stay home Friday nights and go to shul on Saturday?
It wasn't a question of going to shul, it was a
No.
question of getting together with the family
Getting
Right.
on the
Okay.
Friday night, let me see what they used to call it.
So after you were 9, you went and you were living with your mom. It sounds like your brothers were working. So it was
Yeah.
you and your mom in New York. And you said you spent a lot of time with your mom's family.
Yeah.
Tell us
Because
about those.
Wait, I
They-
want to cover the.
They were there.
Wait, but let's do one thing. Let's just go back. When you were a little kid, you had the family with the Shabbat.
That was the mom's family.
That was a mom's family.
Yeah,
After he
Okay.
was 9.
After
So
you were
it's
9.
good.
What about before you were 9? Did your
I don't recall,
okay?
don't recall.
Okay.
So it was you and your mom there.
That's right.
You get
What were the Friday night dinners like?
Friday was a regular Friday night, the chicken soup, knedlach or noodles, and that was usually it. For the holidays was the gefilte fish, and it's the regular Jewish Friday night dinners.
And who would be there?
Mom and I, and after dinners is when we got together with the rest of the family. We lived one house here and one house here, was just next door to one another, and there was apartments, 1, 2, 3 apartments in each building. We lived in, I think it was the ground floor, yes, the ground floor,
Do you
and
remember the address?
I know it was Livonia Avenue, 180 Livonia Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, Brownsville. I remember, how come I remember that address?
Wasted brain space.
You see what she says? When I have Alzheimer's, it all comes back.
Wasted brain space. There you go.
And
So after dinner, who would be there?
after dinner, they usually get together. There would be Aunt Sarah, Moish, Uncle Moish, and
Was that Sarah's husband?
no, Izzy was Sarah's husband. I can't think of the other brother. It'll come to me.
Moshe.
Moishe
And
was
Yitzhak.
there. And Yitzhak was the brother-in-law of them. That's about all I can remember, that family. But it was be a question of having tea and cake and storytelling.
And then on the high holidays, would you go to synagogue?
Now,
No.
as a matter of fact, when I was bar mitzvah, now this is a funny story. Of course, a Jewish boy has to be bar mitzvah. And here I am coming up to 13. At age 12 and a half, they started to teach me what I had to know to be bar mitzvah. And I'll never forget the son of a gun who taught me. Stink from high heaven with a beard. And I got through the bar mitzvah, and we had a big affair after the bar mitzvah. We had 2 herrings and a bottle of whiskey. That was the affair after the bar mitzvah. So I went through, I was prompted through the whole thing, and to this day, I can't read Hebrew.
So it held no meaning for you. It didn't feel like
It had
it's
no meaning at all, because there was no longevity in learning.
right.
It was a 6-month crash course to learn what I had to say, and they took me into the synagogue on a Saturday morning, and they went through the ritual, and I don't know what the hell went on, to be truthful with you, but I said what I had to say, stumbled through it, and the prompter next to me, and that was the bar mitzvah. But as far as its significance or meaning anything to me, it meant nothing. And
Did you have any cousins?
I had a cousin Harry, I had a cousin Dave, I had a cousin Ann, 2 Anns. There were Big Ann and Little Ann. I can recall there was a closeness with Little Ann, who was married to Mike.
And who were they children of?
They were the children of Morris, Moish. Little Ann is still living. She is 90-some years old,
Oh.
and in a, retirement home in Florida. We saw her once or twice, didn't we? since then.
What's her last name?
Weiss, Anna Weiss.
And who did she marry?
She married Mike
Wife.
Weiss, who ran a coffee shop in Wall Street.
Okay.
Made a lot of money.
And who were the other cousins you mentioned? You said,
Cousin Ann Schatzoff,
okay, now who was she a child of?
she is a child of Sarah. Sarah Pasternak.
Sarah. And so, Sarah
P-A-S-T-E-R-N-A-C-K.
Right.
Now wait, Sarah Pasternak, was she Jewish?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So Sarah was originally Wisselman, and she
That's
married
exactly-
Isidore
That's right,
Pasternak.
exactly.
Okay.
Now, where else do we go from there? Anne had 2 children. She had Gloria,
This is Ann Weiss.
Ann Wisselman, Anna Wisselman. Had 2 children. Ann Weiss had no children,
Oh.
no children at all.
Sarah and Izzy had a child named Anne. No, you're
Sarah
Ann.
Wisselman married Izzy Pasternak,
Right.
and they had a
They had
child.
2 children.
What were their names?
Gloria, and what's his name that we saw just past year? Huh? Oh, my God.
So these were
I
some.
have written down.
A, B, C, D.
There was an Anne Pasternak too?
And then you just mentioned an Ann Wisselman.
Ann Wisselman was,
Was
That's-
who? No, hold on. Ann Wisselman
that's the,
Weiss.
Ann
Anne Pasternak
Pasternak,
Right.
was the son of Sarah and Izzy, or daughter of Sarah and Izzy.
right.
Okay.
So there was Ann and Gloria.
Sarah was a Wisselman.
Right.
What else could I bring down the line? Moish had 2 children.
Who did he?
That would have been Harry Wisselman and Ann Weiss. Harry, I don't know how many children he had. I think he had 2 children, but I don't recall their names.
And Yitzhak? What's the name? Oh, we got that, Izzy.
Izzy Pasternak.
Oh, so Yitzhak is Izzy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So your sister, your mother Anna, had a brother named Morris, Moshe,
right,
and a sister named Sarah,
right.
and that was it.
And then who married Jason?
Fasten Dulcia. Who was that?
Fossedelia?
Yeah.
Fossedelia.
Who was that?
I'm trying to think of which uncle that was. Can't think of his name. Can't think
Oh,
of
so
his-
she got married in.
Yeah,
Fastedelia got married in.
right, that was a second marriage
I see.
for that uncle.
Right.
So there was another, Anna had another brother
That you
who you can't remember, who eventually married this person.
Fastedelia.
Possibly.
And had, yeah,
Okay,
my mother had another brother.
okay.
Right.
And we don't know who that is. Okay.
Okay.
What about your cousins? Did they have bar mitzvahs or bat mitzvahs?
I really don't know, I was away from them.
Okay.
Where did they live?
They all lived in Brooklyn.
Right.
They all lived in Brooklyn. When I went to college and then came back from college, I went to work in Chicago, South Bend, Indiana, from college. I had met a girl in college who came from Winnetka, Illinois. Yeah, Marty,
I don't have it here.
that's it.
What was his, that was who? That was
Marty was Sarah
Sarah and
Pasternak. That was Marty and Gloria.
We still didn't tell him about the funny incident with the plane.
We
I
got,
didn't get to
we
that.
got it noted.
I didn't get to
So
that
you
yet.
finished college, or you
I
finished
did
up the part?
the 1.5
college
years
you
in college, and then I,
Just one and a half years.
Herman Pasternak. Now Herman Schatzoff. Herman Schatzoff was Ann Pasternak's husband. They had the 2 children, Marty and Gloria.
Oh, Ann Pasternak.
Right?
I'm sorry, so Ann married Harry.
No, Ann married, what did I say his name was? Just forgot already.
Marty?
Henry,
Marty's father.
Marty, Harry.
No. Herman. Married Herman Schatzoff.
And they had 2 kids, Gloria and Marty.
Gloria and Marty. Now Herman had a brother who was a promotion man in the clothing business. And at the time that I came back from college, he connected himself with a chain of jewelry stores. And they were opening a concession in a chain of stores that sold women's clothing, men's clothing, shoes, accessories in South Bend, Indiana, and I became the manager at age, I think it was 19, of the department. And
So
I
this
moved-
sounds like not long after, or in the Depression. This is,
Oh, yes,
you're
yes.
now 19 in
This is
1936.
Now it's 34, 35.
Right. Okay.
35, and in the Depression, I went to South Bend, Indiana to manage this department. And I lived in a hotel that catered to people by the month, young people who worked in South Bend. And I stayed there for over a year, working at the department. And I sold everything. Besides jewelry, I sold women's shoes, I sold women's clothes, men's clothes, I sold everything they had in the store. They had a Jewish manager, a young Jewish manager for the store, who hated my guts because I'd always push for sales. And I'd push for the PMs. PMs is merchandise that you get commission on. All the junk that's left over, and I would push that stuff like crazy to make the extra dollars. Weekends, I would go into Chicago, where I trained to see this girl that I met in college. She was there. Her family was a well-known Jewish family out of Winnetka, Illinois. As a matter of fact, he was the publisher of the Jewish Times in Chicago. He also published a lot of comic books. And when I left South Bend, I moved in with them in Winnetka.
Do you remember their name?
Uh,
Or this girl's name?
Carolyn Ruth Rosalind Weber was her name, so their last names were Weber. And they had a brother who was in the ribbon business. And this is before Christmas. And they had a lot of what they call schmata ribbons, rolls of ribbons that were not continuous but were pieced together, red and green for Christmas. And I took a batch of them and went out on the road selling it to florists. So I did that for a couple of months, and then my brother Barney says, come on back, we could use you in Trenton. So the Webers gave me a ticket to come back to Philadelphia. Now at that particular time, the airlines were giving people what they call due bills. It was credits for the publishing and whatnot, so they had a due bill for the plane ride back. Now, this is the story that she wants me to tell you. I get on the plane in Chicago, and the passenger next to me is a life-size dummy of Popeye the Sailor that was sent from California to go to Philadelphia. We get to Pittsburgh. They tap me on the shoulder. You have to get off, because Popeye stays and another passenger. The due bill was courtesy, so I got off the plane and I went to the counter and I fought the counter there, and I finally got back on the plane and got home riding with Popeye.
So you held Popeye on your lap?
No, I didn't hold Popeye. They strapped him in. So that's as far as that goes. Now, let's bring you up to date somewhere.
So you moved back to Trenton.
I moved back to Trenton,
This is in,
1936, I think it was.
So whatever happened with the girl, Ruth?
She got married. She got married. I understood she married a dentist out of Memphis, Tennessee. That's, I don't know how many years ago.
it's interesting that you've traveled so much, because from what I understand, at that period of time, people didn't really leave where they were. You've been from Philadelphia, New Jersey, down to Alabama, up to South Bend.
That's right.
Did you like to travel? What was-
Did I like to travel? It was a question of necessity.
Okay, so you went where there was something.
I went where there was something to do.
Moved to Trenton. Where'd you move into?
Well, I moved, Dave and Barney were together in business. They had what they called the Royal Scale Company. They were making penny-operated scales for drugstores. You know, you wouldn't weigh yourself, and it was the type with the bars across the front, and you set it like you do a regular scale. So they made a salesman out of me. And I would put 2 or 3 scales in the back of the car and go out and sell them to drugstores. No money down, $5 a month. The whole cost of the scale was $35 at that particular time. And they would sign notes for the $35. And we existed that way for a while, and then we got into fluorescent lighting. That was just coming in at that particular time. And we were making the shells for the long lights, like you would call commercial shells that you would put over a workbench.
Right.
And my brother said to me, there's a drugstore down on the corner, I forget the corner in Trenton, go down and sell him all lighting for his store. I did. I went and I sold him a whole new lighting system for the store. But that didn't last long. In the interim,
What happened with your brothers? Were you close while you were working with them? Were they nice to you?
I was the tail end. We had 2 cars, and there was 3 brothers. They had the choice first of the clothes, and I had the last picks. We were all about the same size. So my wife could tell you what I used to wear, 2 different colored socks. I'm colorblind, I used to wear 2 different colored socks. I would never coordinate it.
So
In the interim, a cousin in New York gets a hold of me on the phone. Please do her a favor, being I'm close to Philadelphia, please do me a favor. What's the favor? Well, he says, there's a girl in Philadelphia that a cousin is seeing and wants to marry. Go in and tell this girl what a rotten son of a bitch this guy is. Don't marry him. Is that the story?
now who was the cousin?
I don't remember who the cousin was that told me to go in. Well, in any event, I get in the car. I had a car one weekend, and I go to 5533 Beaumont Avenue in Philadelphia, next door to her. And I introduce myself. I sit down and I talk to Dinky. That was her girlfriend,
Diane.
Diane.
Yeah, but they called her Dinky.
Oh, she was a friend of yours?
Yeah.
My next door neighbor.
And
Okay.
what was her last name?
What was her last name?
Diane.
Marinsky.
So I'm in there and I'm talking to the family. And her mother walks in.
My father.
Oh, your father walked in? I don't know who walked in while I'm there. He introduced me to him. And in any event, my talking to Dinky didn't help. She married the guy. She had a miserable life from what I understand.
Oh, Dinky was the person you were supposed to go talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the meantime, go back to her house. What was the story there? You tell them what happened. Your father came in or your mother?
My father.
Your father?
Then he liked his looks. But I was going with somebody else at that time, whom my father didn't care for. So he says, go next door to Dinky because she's got a cousin there that I like the way he looks. I go in and he's wearing green pants and blue shoes. And he was a mess. But he was very nice. And he asked me for a date. And the date was on Yom Kippur.
Right.
What'd you think of that?
It proves one thing. If a person wants something, they'll do it regardless. My father was religious. We always went to shul. But because he was so unhappy with the fellow that I was dating and wanted to break me up with him, he told me to accept
The date.
the date.
Me, I had no religion particularly. I didn't observe the holiday, so I asked her for a date.
So I went out with him.
Where was your first date?
Where'd we go? Went to the
We
movie?
went to a movie,
A movie.
but
Do you remember the movie?
yes, it was Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland.
The one with the horses?
It's something about a parade, spring parade or something. The funny part about it is that wherever we went, this fellow Saul was behind us.
Not only was he
It was
behind
He
us,
was
Sal
the
was
date.
her date,
My
her boyfriend.
The fellow that I was
Date.
dating, he was behind us. From the movies, we went to AB's Seafood House in Philly to have hard-shell crabs. My parents always went there. And we walked in, and my mother said to me, do you know who's in back of you? I said, Sal. And he was. When we got back to my house on Beaumont Avenue, he was there, and he had a gun. He still has a license for guns. I had originally told him that I was going out with my cousin. But he, of course, he found out who I was out with. But he said to Uncle Si, if you marry her,
Wait a minute, no, that wasn't, that's a little later when he
No.
said that. Not the first night or the second night date we had. It wasn't the first date we had that he said that. It was after, we went out a couple of times.
okay. And then he said to Uncle Si, if you marry her, I will not get married for 5 years. I will wait to see if your marriage stays. And he did. He waited 5 years. He went into the service and offered us his convertible blue Buick. When he came back on,
From service. Leave.
leave. He'd always come to our house, we would have dinner, we would go out together. They became best of friends.
Who was this?
Saul Goldis, and you know him. You have seen him.
Is that Uncle Saul? Well,
Yeah.
Tall guy
Tall,
with
gray
curly
hair.
gray hair.
Yeah.
so you stayed in touch with him?
Oh, yeah.
Best of friends to this very day.
Interesting.
Isn't that
Did he
interesting?
ever get married?
He got married, and he was married for 47 years and got a divorce. And his wife wouldn't talk to me for 5 years.
For another 5 years.
For another 5 years. But he came to our house for
Right.
Sunday brunch or Sunday breakfast. And you ended up working for my father
Right.
at RK. And Saul was in the lumber business. So they used to do business together, and then they would have lunches together, or they would spend the day together. They became we're still best of friends.
So then, so you met, you went out on some dates, and then what happened?
No, we got engaged and got married. Wasn't long.
What
No,
year
we-
did, when did you get married? What year?
1941 we got married.
What was your anniversary date?
July 6th.
July the 6th.
July 6th, 1941. And it rained like hell the night we got married. Oh, did it rain.
And at that time, we got married in Philly at the synagogue, and we were
What
taking
synagogue was that?
Bethel. We got married, and from Philly to Atlantic City, you were able to take a train. We didn't drive. I went to the Breakers Hotel.
That's right. That's where we spent our honeymoon, the Breakers Hotel, which is
And
no
while we
longer.
were on our honeymoon, my father and my mother and my brother
Your
and
grandfather?
my grandfather, my grandmother, they all came down to visit at the Breakers.
And
But,
that's, and 1943, Myra was born. 1947,
before that, I lost one child.
yes, you lost
I
one
missed.
child, had a miss. 1943, Myra was born. 1947, Donna was born. 1951, Gary was
Gary
born.
was
And that's the three children we have. From those three children, Gary has twin boys and a girl,
You have Dustin and Russell and Ashley.
and Donna has three boys,
Rod, Michael, and Kevin.
and Myra has two children,
Joshua and Ashley. Robin.
Robin, that's right. So that's 8 grandchildren so far.
And so what did you do? You got married, you started having children, and then you had been working with your brothers.
No,
Then he-
I left my brothers and went to work for her father in the remodeling business,
And what was the name of his company?
RK Builders.
Arcade Builders.
RK
Still
Builders,
in
and
business.
from that, the advertising man got us into Lit Brothers department stores as a concession, which I ran. From there, we did very well, and Lit Brothers was a part of a chain of stores. They had a store in New Orleans called Maison Blanche. And they got us an introduction to Maison Blanche, and I went to New Orleans and opened an apartment there, which failed horribly because it was absentee management. I stayed in the remodeling business with Uncle Joe, her father, and Uncle Harry. That's her side of the family
We'll
until
go through that.
1970 something. I don't recall the year, because 1980, I think it was 1980, I retired. Barney's. It was 1970 something, and I went back. Barney called me and says that he needed me desperately. And at that particular time, there was no longer manufacturing of scales or lighting fixtures. They had connected with manufacturing of displays for the carpet industry and the linoleum industry. They had a contract with Congolium to sample all of their goods. So it was a regular running factory with 60 or 70 employees in there, and they asked me to come in because Dave was sick and wanted to retire. So I went to work there. And in 1980, Barney decided to sell the business. And that's when I was retired at 65. Yeah, that's right. 19 is 17 years. Yeah, that's it. And they bought me out with a little protest. And that's it. Since then, it's been retirement and living the life of ease with my charming wife.
So when you were raising kids, what kind of religious home did you have? Did you celebrate the holidays? What was the,
We didn't keep too much of a religious home.
did you belong?
Holidays, we went to the synagogue.
Yeah.
All our children were either bas mitzvah or bar mitzvah, Gary and the girls. But we weren't religious. I didn't keep a kosher home.
Your mom was bat mitzvah? Donna was bat mitzvah?
Bas mitzvah.
Bas mitzvahs.
She was?
Oh, sure.
Wasn't she?
I think so.
We can check.
I don't know.
Did, what neighborhood did you grow up in at that point?
We were in northeast Philadelphia. When we first got married, we were in southwest Philadelphia, 55, no, not 55,
54th and Florence.
5415 Florence Avenue.
Exactly. Oh, you're doing good.
And we moved from there and bought a house. As a matter of fact, when we were on Florence Avenue, there was a building that her father owned, and we rented an apartment. It was 2 apartments. And then we moved to northeast Philadelphia, which was just starting to be built, all row houses. When we first went up there, the streets were mud. I think we were the first or the second people to move in on the street.
What street was that?
Glenview.
Glenview, 2109.
You have to
Glenview.
remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And we stayed there until, when? What year was it we sold? Moved to Jersey?
Well, we're in Florida 15 years, but it's only 6 years. So 6 years into the, when we sold.
So how long were we in Cooper Valley? We were there 10 years. So it's 6 and 10, 16 years, 782.
You can't ask me, I don't know.
Okay.
So what, how would you describe your marriage in the early years? Was it, I mean, you guys are obviously very happy in
We were
57
happy,
years
but we were busy.
with children.
We never had a lot of money. But
And
we
he
had a
was
lot
never
of fun.
home.
I was never
Because
home,
he
I was
was
selling.
estimating with the home remodeling. So it could be 9, 10 o'clock at night, could be Sundays. In fact, when I became pregnant with Myra, he was on a call. He wasn't home, and
Oh,
I
you
was
did
having
live-
labor pains.
Uh-huh.
But I wouldn't go to the hospital till he came home.
She held on.
Never, we really didn't know when we were doing what, because he was always on call.
Right.
How would you describe Myra and Gary and Mom? Were they like good kids, bad kids?
Oh, yeah,
easy?
no.
Look, they went through the teen years where they were a little rebellious, all of them. did.
Myra was like their mother.
Yeah,
Donna didn't know how to boil an egg, right?
exactly.
When my parents went to Florida, they told me I should send the girls, Gary wasn't born yet, down to Florida for a vacation. And at that time, all the little girls used to wear white gloves. So I sent them down to Florida. They got there, their luggage went to New York. So my mother had to take them out and buy bathing suits and had to wait until their luggage was delivered back to Florida. But they had a good time. Myra was like the mother. She made sure that Donna's drawers and everything was neat, and she was always dressed properly.
And your mother wasn't a neat kid, let me tell you. She
She
wasn't.
didn't know how to cook. Myra was the one, in fact, I went to work. And, but Donna turned out great. She's a great cook.
She is a great girl.
Isn't she?
Yep.
Damn right. But,
And were you close with Myra when she was growing up?
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you do your skating?
And Gary was a good kid?
Gary was a kid who loved sports. You could never find him. He was out with the boys. Basketball, hockey, stickball, anything at all. He was,
And he had two friends that were born,
They're twins.
they were twins.
They were twins.
One twin was born a cripple. And when they had to start school, which was like 3 blocks away from us, Gary and another fella, they would put one of the twin that was a cripple in a red wagon. At that time, we used to have red wagons,
Take him to school.
and they would take him to school. When he learned really how to use his crutches, we always had a basketball
Back of our place.
in back of our home,
A hoop.
a hoop over the garage. And they always came over to our house to play. And you couldn't help him. If he fell, he would get up himself. If the ball traveled anywhere, he would get on it. He learned how to do by himself. But at times he needed help. He became a radiologist.
The friend with
Cripple.
disability.
The disabled boy became a radiologist. And we saw his mother and his little girl. He married a Oriental.
Uh-huh.
Or Pakistani or something.
Yeah, and they had
This
one,
little girl.
that little, I don't know what he has now, but
Is Gary still friends with him?
Oh, yeah. I hasn't seen him for ages. Hasn't
I
seen
think
him for
he's
ages.
down in Florida. But I think they keep in touch occasionally.
What was the neighborhood like in Oxford Circle?
Oxford Circle was young couples with children.
And very close. We used to sit at the beginning didn't have air conditioning.
Right.
So people would either lay out on their
Stoop.
lawns or
Stoop is
or
right.
sit on their chairs and they would sleep. There was no air conditioning. And we had watermelon parties, we had
Crab
crab
parties.
parties. Everybody was friendly. All the neighbors came out and we shared everything.
We used to get bushels of crabs.
It was close.
And I remember one time somebody tipped over the bushel and the crabs started running down the street. And run like hell, everybody had to run to pick them up. It was funny.
Rod, do you remember Buck Rosenberg?
Yeah.
Uncle Buck?
Uncle Buck.
He lived next door to us, and he was a policeman, and he loved horses, and he had a horse out in the stable. But every once in a while, he would bring a horse and tie it on our front lawn,
Not a horse, but a pony.
a pony,
Little
and tie it
pony.
on our front lawn. And you would see the pony walking between his house, because we had
Never
that
needed
big
a
house.
lawnmower. Never needed a lawnmower.
Right.
Or a
But you
manure.
would see the cars coming down the street, look at the pony, and don't believe it, they would back up to make sure that they saw what they saw.
Mhm.
And he was a lover of kids.
Mhm.
And he made a sari, took the ponies with the fringe on the top, and used to take all the little kids for
But that
rides.
wasn't enough. He couldn't get enough kids, so he made an auxiliary one on the back to the Surrey. So he had a wagon on the back, a little low
He was
wagon.
wonderful. He was wonderful. He's now in a home. He's blind. And he's bad.
You didn't get to your family.
Yeah, we didn't get
We'll,
to-
we'll get there. What about Aunt Mary? Was she on your side of the family?
And no,
No,
she was
ma'am.
not family.
She was neighborhood.
She was across the street from me.
Right.
She was a
I
friend.
remember her.
And she lost her husband when
He was
he was
45.
43 years old.
43, that's right.
And Mary had 3 girls.
What were their names?
It was Putty, Sandy, and
Karen.
Karen.
And what was Mary's last name? Marmor.
Marmor.
Mama.
That's right. You
How
remember?
about you? How about you? She went to work, Mary, at Baumert Tellers in the back department and the jewelry department. And she was a bad housekeeper and didn't like to cook. So Mary would, I don't remember with the kids, but Mary would come home from work and come to my house, have dinner, and then go home. But I couldn't make anything with dairy for her. No sour cream, no cream cheese, no dairy. She didn't eat. So I used to, and even for her husband when he was alive, he
You can
was
think I'm gonna
diabetic.
get a drink.
And I used to make him
Do you want us to
Watch
sit on the
your
special
sofa?
dinners.
Do you want to take a little break or?
Um,
What's the cord
you
here?
okay?
Yeah. And when Sandy, the middle child, had to have a prom dress or an affair, I would take her shopping. And the sales girl would say, go out and show your mother the dress. He says, that's not my mother, that's my father's second wife. Meaning Max, her husband, when he was alive, and myself were very close.
Yeah.
I used to cater to him. I used to make him special food. So she always called me my father's second wife. Mary was a widow.
This is great.
The floor.
Great pillow. It's a back pillow.
It's
I
a
don't
back-
need it.
It
You
sits
need
under your tush.
It's real comfortable.
Great. You
And I'll
sit
put it
on
underneath you, yeah.
You're gonna like that.
Yeah, I guess. Mary was a widow for about 18 years. She moved to Florida, and she was there for quite a while. And my sister lived in New York with her husband, Norman Feinberg, who had worked for this man, Manny.
Manny was the first husband?
No.
Manny
No,
was-
it's just Manny.
Manny. Davis was his name. He was a manufacturer of men's clothing. And my sister's husband worked for him.
He was a sales manager for her.
And they came, Manny came down. Manny lived in Florida.
Manny had sold the business to Norman before that, and Manny lived in Florida, that's right.
And Mary was in Florida. But at the time that Manny came down, Mary was staying with me. And my sister and Norman came down. And through Norman, we called Manny and asked him if he would like to come down to Sandra's sister's house and meet and spend the evening. So he met Mary at my house. We had drinks. We went out to dinner. And he was lonely. He had been married twice before, never had any children. And he was quite wealthy.
As a matter of fact, he had a housekeeper that if he went traveling anywhere, she would accompany him as a
Yeah.
companion.
Yeah, they went on a cruise or they flew someplace. He always had someone with him because he couldn't take care of himself. The next day he called me up and he said, I would like to take Mary out for lunch. Can you make the arrangements? Now, he had a car, but he didn't know how to drive.
Never drove, had a car.
He
never
had a
drove.
car, so he paid someone to
The
be his
chauffeur.
chauffeur that day. So I made arrangements for him to come down to our place, pick Mary up, and have lunch. And at lunch, he said to her, would you accompany me on a cruise?
To Alaska.
I would like to go to Alaska, but I won't go by myself. So she said yes. The housekeeper didn't like that idea.
Housekeeper's vacation days were over.
That's right.
She quit.
And
Wasn't that much fun being a housekeeper. anyway.
Mary was staying in Coral
Carl Gables.
Gables, which is the tail end of Miami, all the ways down in Biscayne Bay. And he is all the ways up in North Palm Beach, which is a distance of
Yeah.
maybe 60 miles.
Manny one time where he lived, had a boat, and he had a cabin.
He had a boat that needed a captain and a mate to
Yeah.
run it.
Yeah, he did very well.
So did she go to
And
Alaska?
Mary, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and he asked her to come up like on the weekends, and she did. And she would,
She had an old car.
How
She
old
would
was
cook-
she at this time?
It was what?
It was
How
like
old
around
is Mary?
your age?
Mary is your age,
Yeah, Mary is
82.
82 or 83.
and she was married 13 years.
Yeah. 13, so she was 69.
Is Aunt Mary still alive?
Oh,
Yes.
sure.
So
Sure.
she met him when she was, what, about 70?
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
less.
69, 68.
70, 13,
Wow.
well, he stayed 2 years.
They were married 13 years,
Yeah, they were married
15 years ago.
Wow.
So, she went to Alaska and then came back, and she would travel weekends up to his place. She would cook for him and package certain things.
He didn't like the car she was driving, it was
But
too
the
old.
car was an old car. So he says, go out and get yourself a car. She did. She bought a new car.
What'd you buy?
Oh, I don't remember.
No, she didn't buy,
Yeah.
no, she bought a Ford or, she
Right.
bought a good car. And she used to spend weekends up there.
Until finally he said, let's get married.
He wanted to get married. We gave Mary away.
Yeah, how wonderful.
And this was like 15 years ago, somewhere around there.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they were married 13 years and
He's
he's
dead, too.
dead.
And he says,
So-
But, he started to fail.
yeah.
And
But they had some good years together.
Yes, they did.
We had some good years too, because every year,
Every year, he would take a group of us, sometimes it was 23 people, on a cruise
we paid for
for a
everything,
week and paid for everybody.
Wow.
including the tips.
And even gave us envelopes with tip money in it for the waiter, for the whoever. Now
It's
you know
nice.
how much money he had.
Yeah.
We went, I think, 7 years.
7 years, we went on
7 years.
7 cruises.
We went on 7 cruises. It was wonderful. We had pictures. It was just great. His last 2 years,
Was
the
hard.
last year, definitely, he was in bed. Didn't know from a thing.
Right.
Didn't know from a thing.
So let's go back to your grandma's.
Yeah, what was it, what types of people lived in Oxford Circle? Was it,
Yeah.
Young Jewish,
and
young
was it
Jewish.
ethnic? Was it Jewish, Italian?
Predominantly Jewish. It was
Yeah.
predominantly Jewish. You had a
But not
mixture.
religious
Was-
Jewish, right? Like
No.
mostly.
Hasidim, no.
No,
No.
How about like, did people
now you
all,
have a seat.
were people kosher and did they go to shul, or was it just like culturally Jewish?
No, people went to shul on Yom Kippur,
I know,
Rosh
they-
Hashanah. You never went to shul on Friday night.
No.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
The young people at that time didn't. We didn't have any older people. Famous delicatessen you had to hear about.
Right,
They lived
I
on
was
the-
there,
you
on the
know
corner
that.
of Bustleton Avenue.
Right. No, we were all young people. And when your mother got married, she got married from Glenview Street.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't know how many years after that, Mark had to go into the service.
Did you like
Like
Mark right
two.
away?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, they lived on the other side of Castro Avenue. I didn't know his parents. I only met them after they,
Started going together.
started going together.
What was she, 16 when she started to go with Mark? Somewhere around
She
that?
says 15.
15, 16, yeah.
Did you think she was young to get married?
Well, she didn't
She
get
didn't
married.
get married
till-
until
till-
she was close to 20.
Did you think she was young to get married when she was
No.
19?
No.
That was appropriate at the time.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I think we all got married then.
You were 20,
Right. I got married in July and I was 20 in September.
right.
She
She was
got,
19.
Well, that's why we have so many grandparents. You're
Yeah.
20 and 20 and 20,
Right.
Right.
and all of a sudden you have like 60-year-old grandparents.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
when I was born,
yeah,
you have
yeah.
50-year-old. Yeah.
What sticks out in my mind is when
He was born?
Mark, yeah,
Yeah.
when Mark had to go to the service and
They shipped him out to
we all
California.
took him to the airport. Donna was pregnant with her first child. We left the airport and Mark said to me, I'll call you tonight to see what I had. From the airport, we took Donna to the hospital because she was having labor pains. Rod was born, and Mark called at 12 o'clock at night. He says, what did I have? He wasn't there for Rod's birth, and he wasn't there for Kevin. which was his youngest son.
Where was he
Michael.
when Kevin was born?
Kevin was born here in Philly,
In Philly.
but Michael was
Michael was
born in
born in Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Where was Mark when Kevin was born?
Playing
On
golf.
a golf course. And we left Gary at the house to tell him to go to the hospital because Donna was in labor.
Right.
By the time he got to the hospital, Kevin was born. But what was funny was when they all came off of Okinawa, from Okinawa,
The five of them. Four of them.
they were all dressed alike. Over in Okinawa, they had a mama son, and she sewed very well. So they all were wearing
The same
the
outfits.
same outfit. You were wearing the black and white check,
That's right, I remember.
and Rod had it, and Michael had it, and Donna, and Michael. And
We have
Mary,
kids.
Mary at that time was living in this house, and Donna had no place to go
When they came back.
when they came back, and so we fixed up Mary's house.
Okay. Go ahead.
We fixed up Mary's house, we did some, we
Painting,
put
papering.
painting and fixing up, and we put gates up at the stairs so the kids wouldn't fall down. And Donna, Mark, and two boys lived at Mary's for a while, until they decided to move. You know, it was difficult. I don't remember what Mark did. He went to with Levin, I think, the day.
He was working
Yeah.
for somebody.
But that's where they stayed for quite. Mary has been very nice too. Mary ate my house for all those years, and everyone thought that she was paying me. Wherever we went, we took her. She was like a member of my family, and my entire family, my parents and my sister, everybody
Right.
knew that Rita and I went, Mary went. And she has been very nice to us when she was able to show her gratitude. for
She's
what
in
we
a
did.
retirement home now?
Oh, no.
She's
no.
in her same apartment that Manny had at,
Old Port Cove
Old
at
Port
North Palm
Cove.
Beach.
in North Palm. Yeah, she's got a nice apartment.
Mhm.
It's lonely,
Uh-huh.
but his 2 years were bad, and she had help all around the clock, sleeping and taking care of him, because they had to turn him, and she couldn't do it.
Can we go into Grandma's?
Yeah.
I want to go into your family, but I just want to have you, just real fast, document your nieces and nephews. So Barney married who?
Barney married Jean.
No, Barney was married to
Oh.
Wilma at first. Barney married Wilma Aronson.
Yeah,
They had one daughter.
she was a school teacher, wasn't she?
Wilma was a school teacher, yes. They had one daughter, Helen. Helen married, what was his name? The doctor?
Can't think of her right now. Doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't make any difference. Married a doctor in not Lakewood, Long Branch, New Jersey. They had two children, boy and a girl. I don't remember their names because I was never close with them.
Okay.
Did he remarry after Wilma?
He divorced from Wilma and he married, what do you call her?
Jean.
Jean.
I mean, nobody liked.
Non-Jewish girl,
J-E-A-N.
Jean.
Nobody liked her. She wasn't Jewish?
No, she wasn't Jewish.
That wasn't why we didn't like her.
Just didn't like her.
Religion doesn't mean that much.
It
to
wasn't a
me,
question of
because some
religion, the
people are nicer.
personality. It was the personality. She was a miserable
She was.
bitch. It's the only words that I can explain to
She
you.
was.
How long were they married? Or are
Well,
they
they were
still
married for quite some time. And when Barney died, all along I said that Jean was a dyke. You know what a dyke is?
Yeah.
Lesbian. Because she had one girl who was, her name was Shotzi, used to be a favorite of hers. She would give gifts, show favoritism all the time, and I said she was a dyke. When Barney died, Jean inherited most of the money. And when Jean died, this Shotzi got all the money. Now, you
Not
put
her
the
kid?
release.
Oh,
No,
she didn't
Did
have
they
He
kids.
didn't have any children.
Okay.
So Barney just had one child.
He had one child, that's right. He took care of his grandchildren and his daughter from his estate, but the bulk of the estate went to Jean. She had him change the will at the last minute. The party didn't know what the hell was going on.
And then she gave all the money to her friend.
Her friend, her lesbian friend, and she died, so she got no use out of it.
Well, her son got it.
Who?
Shotzi's son.
Shotzi's son got it, yeah, it was Shotzi's.
What was Shotzi's name?
Who the hell knows?
Oh, you don't know.
Shotzi.
Shotzi, all right.
And
Do
what
you remember
about,
Jean's last name?
Yeah.
Her maiden name, no,
Yeah.
no.
what about Dave?
How about Dave?
Dave? Dave married Ethel.
What was Ethel's maiden name?
Ethel maiden name was, began with an S. God bless you.
Okay.
In any event, they had two children,
Patty
Patty
and Howard,
and Howard.
Rochestie. And you know them, you've
Mhm.
met them.
Right. And so Patty married,
Tom, she married, well, she was married first to someone else, then she married Tom Menken,
He was an attorney.
who was an attorney, is an attorney,
mm-hmm.
and they live in the Baltimore area.
And who are their children?
They have two girls,
Stacy
Stacy and
Jill.
Jill.
and Jill. And who was the first husband?
Dick Layton.
Dick
who was
Layton,
a
the
doctor.
Thank you. I went to, okay.
Dick Layton. He was a doctor.
Richard Layton. Layton.
Interesting. Okay. And they had, did they have any children?
Well, Patty, Dick had the two children,
Oh, he,
Patty was Dick's
her first wife.
Yeah.
okay.
And the children are Dick's.
So
Patty,
he came into the marriage with children?
who did?
No,
I'm sorry.
these children, Leighton's kids are Stacy and Jill.
No.
That
Yes.
Leighton's kids are Stacy
Stacy and Jill, right.
Oh,
Tom just came into the marriage
Later.
with the family already there.
I see. Interesting. And so he's a second husband and no children from him?
No.
No, together they had no children.
Oh,
Hey,
so
Tom-
Stacy is a Leighton.
That's right.
Yes.
I see.
Tom has his own children, I don't know who
No, we
they
don't
are.
know his
I see.
family.
Okay. And then Howard
Howard has two boys,
married whom?
Christine.
Okay.
Now he's going to ask you the sons.
The children of Howard?
Got an odd name.
I take it they're not Jewish.
He's raising them Jewish, yes.
And did she
Yeah,
convert?
they're divorced.
They're
They're
divorced,
And he's raising them and he's raising them Jewish.
yes.
But they're our age.
Tyler,
Tyler, you're right. Oh, God, sorry.
my memory's working. Tyler is one, and
I don't know the name. Tyler was right.
His daughter, in fact, lives out in Santa Barbara, I believe,
Oh,
Yeah.
in California. Howard's daughter.
yes, she's working.
Howard has no daughter.
Howard has no daughter, it's
Howard has
his niece is working there.
And that's who?
Stacy.
Stacy.
Stacy. Stacy.
All right, so Tyler and maybe
I
Mom
don't
will
know.
remember.
I don't
Okay,
know.
good.
Okay.
That's as far as I can
All
go.
right, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good though. Your
That's
memory works
pretty
really good.
Wasted brain
What'd you
space.
say? Repeat it.
It's
For
wasted
posterity, repeat it for posterity.
What'd you say?
Except for an old man, he's all right.
Do you have any songs you used to sing your children?
No,
Like,
Oh, I have a question. What's the secret to 57 years of marriage?
let her win every argument.
That was an easy answer.
That's it.
How
That's
about
it.
you, Grandma?
Can't answer, I don't know.
What are
There are always, look, there is no marriage that's an absolute perfect marriage.
Everybody has an argument.
Everybody has
If
arguments
they tell you they
and
don't,
fights.
they're lying.
Don't hit. Argue, but don't
Yeah,
hit.
don't raise your hand, that's exactly right.
Argue as hell.
We argue,
And angry as hell too, but you get over it.
Mhm. Any words of wisdom?
Any words of wisdom?
Yep.
Yeah, he told you.
yeah,
I
no,
always
he
win.
did. But I don't always win.
Right or wrong? What's the expression?
I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong.
There's the answer. That's the secret of it.
I could agree with that.
I
Top
always-
3 memories from 57 years of marriage. Couple things that stand out.
Yeah. One thing stands out when they called me into service.
Oh, yeah.
I went
I
for
was
physical.
pregnant with Myra.
And I went for my physical. And I go down to the armory, and they put me through a physical. And they started to check me out. I get in front of one doctor. He says, "Anything wrong with you?" I says, "Yeah, I can tell you it's going to rain tomorrow." He says, "How?" I says, "My shoulder acts up."
Yeah, bursitis.
I had bursitis in the shoulder, and I never knew what I had until then. So he says, "All right, step out, we'll give you an x-ray." I'm waiting for the results of the x-ray in a room with about 20 guys. The shortest one was me. So I figured, this one is called in for Marines, this one is called in for Marines, this one's called in Marines. I'm sitting there all by myself, the last guy. I figure I'm in the Marines. 4F.
Was rejected
I was
because of
rejected because
bursitis.
of the
Is
shoulder.
that unreal?
Are you happy about that?
When I
I
called
was
home,
thrilled to death.
when I called home, when I got home, there was a block party. They had a block party.
This is for World War II.
This is World War II. For me, not getting into service, they had a block party going.
What else? Other big important
Oh, but
memories?
Myra wasn't born yet.
No, she wasn't.
How about
I was
do you
pregnant.
have any big memories? Anything that stands out?
Special anniversary parties or special?
Wedding?
Oh, yes, the
Oh,
surprise,
my God.
surprise parties that we've had.
My parents, well, they said the kids made it. I don't know what.
The 50th? The
25th
25th
wedding
wedding
anniversary.
anniversary, yeah.
They made it at a country club. And you got a set of golf clubs,
That's right,
right?
That's
You
right.
got a set of golf clubs. I got them in Coke.
right.
They put it from the children, but I know the kids didn't pay for it because they weren't old enough. It
Right.
was, but
Wait a minute. You know what stands out of my memory? Myra's Sweet 16.
yes,
Why? What happened?
It was a party at a club,
at the Latin Casino in Philly.
and her father had a brand new
You know,
car wrapped with ribbons outside.
Who did?
Her father.
Your.
Zeta.
Okay.
You,
Well, I don't remember him, but I
He
think
had a
no,
brand
you
new
would
car.
because
He
he
had a
died
brand
right
new
after your
Ford
mother was married.
wrapped in ribbons outside the place, which was Myra's
And we
gift.
got, all the gifts were opened up in the thing, and then they said, you have to go outside for the last gift. And that was a new Ford wrapped up with a ribbon. My father was very generous.
so. Let's talk about your family. What is the where were your parents from? Where did they?
I couldn't,
Immigrant.
I know they were from Russia, but I couldn't be as definite as Uncle Sonny.
Well, you want me
What were
to
their
help you
names?
along?
What were their? Yeah, if you could.
Your father is a Krevolin, had a brother Sal, had a brother Mike,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know where they were born.
They were all born in Russia.
That's what I said.
They were all born in Russia.
And that was it. So it was Robert, Saul, and Mike.
Robert, Sal, Mike. Who else was there? Was there another brother?
What's Harry?
Harry. Harry Krevolin was a brother too. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And they.
Now Sal was married to.
Hold on, where did they come from? Were they all born here? Or do you
No,
think
no,
that
no, no,
they came from somewhere?
They came from Russia.
Mhm.
Where? I don't know, I never did find out. You never did know.
No.
But you said that you remembered your grandparents.
My grandfather,
On whose side?
My mother's.
Your mother's side. Okay, so they're the
I
four.
remember my father's side too a little bit, but they were in Portchester, New York. My mother, Schmerlson is what the one,
was your grandfather on your father's side in Portchester?
yes,
What was his name?
Morris,
Mars.
What was Morris? What was the one across the street?
Max.
There you go. All right, now
Who's
we got
that?
it straight.
Who's Mars?
Fraternal grandfather was Morris.
My father's.
Mars.
Maternal grandfather was Max.
My mother's father was Max. Schmerlson.
Max Schmerlson and Morris Krevolin.
All right. And so, do you remember Morris Krevolin's wife? That would have been your grandmother.
Ida.
And
I'm
what
not
was
sorry,
Ida's?
you.
What was Ida's maiden name? Do you remember?
Never in a million years.
Okay. So you don't remember like an uncle, an Aunt Sasha type of person? No? Okay. So Morris married Ida, had 4 boys, it sounds like?
Yeah.
All boys.
All boys.
And you think that they came from Russia with children?
No, I'm sure that Harry was born here in the United
He was the
States.
youngest?
Yeah. He was born here.
And you think,
Maybe the others were born over there, but Harry was born here.
and was Robert the oldest or the youngest? Or
No.
where
No,
was
he
where
was
was
the-
Robert?
He was in
In
between,
between, it was Harry,
the youngest.
Saul, my father.
Where's Joe come in?
You even got Joe from.
Is there another brother?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 boys, huh?
Joe.
Yeah.
Joe S.O.B.
I
Krevolin.
didn't even go there.
Jessup, yeah, that's
All
so
right,
big.
so there was Joe, and so Robert was somewhere in the middle?
He was next to the oldest,
And who was the oldest?
Mike.
Mike was the oldest. Then it was Robert, it was Sal, Joe,
Joe and
and
Harry.
Harry.
Okay. And do you remember Morris? Do you remember when he died?
No.
Yeah, I remember. Okay.
You know
They
them?
lived in Portchester, we
Portchester,
lived in
New York.
Portchester, New York.
Did they speak Russian? Or you don't remember ever having conversations?
Yiddish, mostly Yiddish.
Yeah, they spoke,
Yeah, Yiddish.
And did your father speak Yiddish or
Yeah.
mostly English?
English.
So Robert Krevolin,
Yes.
then do you remember what he was as a kid, like where they grew up?
No.
You know what you should do is try and document all of the family members first and then get started.
Right. Okay. So then,
Okay, did Mike marry?
Yeah, Mike married Bertha.
They had 3 children. Sal, Seymour, and what was her name?
Harriet.
Harriet.
married Bertha, and they had who?
3 children, Sal, Seymour, and Harriet.
And do you know what happened to those 3 kids?
One of them is dead now, isn't
Yeah, one of the boys is dead. And, no, I don't know what happened to
The other ones?
Okay.
it? All right, who we got
And then
next?
we have Saul.
Saul had 2.
Married to,
Can't remember her name. Do you remember?
They're all Krevolin.
Sarah.
Sarah, oh, I can't believe it. Sarah.
Saul
I
married Sarah
cannot
Krevolin,
believe it.
Right.
and then they had
2 kids, 2 boys,
Can't answer.
2 boys. Eddie. Who was the other one?
I don't know.
He remembers more family members than I do.
That's my side of the family.
I'm pretty impressed.
Eddie and somebody else.
I can't remember, sorry. We weren't that close
Where
with
did they
them.
live?
They lived in
Portchester.
Portchester, New York,
Rochestie, New York.
so we weren't that close with them.
And how about Mike Krevolin? Was he in Portchester also?
Yes.
Yeah, he was in the laundry business, Saul was a chore.
And then you have two more.
Alright. And then we have Harry.
Harry married Selma.
You were crazy about Selma?
I wasn't crazy about Selma.
What was wrong with Selma?
So I had 2 kids, 2 boys.
Another-
Names?
Grandpa's gonna know. He's just testing.
Names? You don't remember.
No.
Call Gary, he'll tell you.
And he'll go.
You're right.
Do you remember them?
Oh, let me think.
Howard.
Good for you.
And who else?
Donna, Selma had 2 boys. Howard, what was the other one's name?
Stuart.
Stuart.
Oh, that's right.
Excellent. All right, and then we have Joe Krevolin.
Joe. S.O.B. Joe.
Joe had Stanley.
Can I just stop you for 1 second?
Yeah,
Will
sure.
you join us for dinner? We're cooking at home. Okay?
I don't know if she, I hope she didn't make anything, I don't know what the hell she
You have to
did.
talk to,
Thank you, I'll find out.
Okay, just want to take stuff out of the...
Joe married who?
Joe married Ida.
Joe was the SOB?
Yes.
All right, and they had children?
Yes, they did.
Boys.
No, they had a boy and a girl.
Who? Who you talking about?
Joe.
Yeah,
Salmon, chicken,
Sam.
turkey.
Joe
Is that okay?
Salmon.
and a boy and a girl. Rosalind and Stanley.
Right.
And they were also in
Who's
Portsmouth.
Howard?
No, no.
No?
Joe was in Philadelphia. Joe was part of RK Builders.
Okay.
Let me call Alice and see if.
You want to take a little break for 5 minutes?
I wanna call.
Okay, let's just break for 5
Hold on
minutes.
for a
Stretch
second.
our legs and we'll come back.
He's gonna remember more of the family, so I'm gonna go through with him.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to stop or not?
He can holler.
okay?
Let's stop for a second. It's going to be distracting.
Sorry.
He's in the bathroom.
Do you want me to go get you a tuna hoagie or something? Are you hungry? I know what I'm going to have right now. I'm having a piece of this.
What's that? Oh, the ABC?
Hey, Rita, let's go.
Do you want me to order a hoagie?
Cheesesteaks
For what?
for lunch.
Where's Daddy?
Or do you want to go out somewhere? Do you want to eat here?
No, we were gonna take you to lunch.
They're gonna let us go out.
All right, well, let us go out. I'll have a part of a cheesesteak.
There you go.
We're going to have dinner here, so we'll just have dinner here. Do you mind if we don't go out?
We owe you a lunch then. We owe you a
Well,
lunch.
let's see. Let's go for a couple more minutes. We'll see how we're doing. Can you check it when we started taping? Okay. So let's see. We have, we're up to Joe. Let's see. We have Joe? We have Joe married Ida and had Rosalind and Stanley.
Right.
All right. Then let's get into the Robert Krevolin. So Robert.
Right.
Didn't Joe have another child, Harvey,
Yes.
Very good.
right? Harvey, Rosalind, and Stanley.
Yeah, 3.
Okay. All right. So, and then how about your mother? What was her family? And we'll go through
Her
that.
family, her maiden name was Schmerlson.
So this was Anna Schmerlson.
Right.
Smeril.
S-O-N.
Okay. And then,
Smerilson. Right.
And her father's name was Max,
Max.
and her mother's name was Esther.
Esther.
and do you remember Esther's?
Maiden name?
No.
Okay.
So Max and Esther, and they had children,
Yes. They had my mother,
right?
and she had a brother Sam, and another daughter Joanna, and a daughter Louise.
You're right.
And do you remember Louise? So do you remember all of their?
Louise was married to Herman,
Herman Sobel,
That's exactly right.
S-O-B-E-L.
right.
Did they have any children?
No.
No,
No children.
Why not?
And Joanna didn't have any children.
no.
Did Joanna get married?
Yeah, but I can't remember her.
Do you remember her name? Joanna, last name? No.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead, continue now.
All right.
Bell,
And then how-
F-E-L-D.
FELD is right.
Takes time. Takes
We
time.
get there.
You're doing
And then
great.
how about Sam?
Sam
Had
was married to Reba,
REBA. Had two sons,
2 sons,
Arnold and
Neil.
Neil.
And Neil was diabetic and became blind.
From his diabetes.
And he died at an early age.
Yes, he did. Now Arnold married Sissy,
Right.
Okay.
and they had 2 children.
Mark is the son, and Jill is the daughter.
You're doing good, kid. Getting back.
So Sam Whistleman, did they always?
Sam Whistleman,
Don't
No.
go to
Sam
Whistleman.
Schmerelson.
Oh, Sam Schmelz.
Whistleman is his side of the family.
Oh, you know, we forgot to ask him why he changed his name.
That's exactly
For
right.
business reasons, my brother Barney changed his name.
And why was that?
Well, because
Business.
Jewish,
In those days, it was
you were
rough.
Jewish, it was rough.
It was rough, so they changed it to Rochestie.
Anything with an SKY
Right,
said you were either Russian or Jewish.
right.
And if you were Jewish, you didn't have the opportunity to sell or to get into the business.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, let's get back to
All right,
next.
so we had Max and Esther, and they had these children. Did Bubby Annie speak Yiddish, or did she
Your
speak
mother?
English?
No, but,
Esther,
no, Max's mother
Okay.
was my great-grandmother.
right.
Your, no.
My great-grand, I don't remember her name,
Oh, it's gonna come to you though.
but she wore a white, remember how religious? Spoke only Jewish when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And she only spoke Jewish.
I only spoke
She couldn't
Jewish.
speak English.
They had a hard time when I had to go to school because my great-grandmother
Right.
lived with us, and Jewish was the only language that was in our home.
She lived with your great-grandmother?
My great-grandmother lived with Esther and Max Schmelson
Right,
and my mother,
right.
and that's where I was born. I was born on Ruby Street,
Ooh,
Right.
and I had a little white dog.
What was your dog's name?
that I never
I
knew.
had a little white dog.
And so this great-grandmother that lived with you, did she have a husband, or do you
No,
don't remember?
no.
And
No,
what
she-
was she like? She was Jewish, she was very
Very
religious.
religious and did
What
nothing.
do they call the religious women where
The Frumy
She was very from. She,
wore the,
I never saw her
Her
hair
hair.
until she died. She always
She
wore,
covered. She was modest.
always covered.
Well, she was born in
Oh, she had to be
Poland.
born.
right. So she or Poland or Russia.
Yeah.
So she was raised in a shtetl, and that's probably the
Right.
only life she knew.
that's
And
exactly.
came to this
Yeah.
country.
I don't know
Do you
when or
remember?
what, but
Yeah.
What language she spoke? Was it Yiddish or Polish? Or
Jewish.
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 Yiddish, that was
Yiddish.
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 And
Absolutely.
she's obviously
That
here.
must
Do you remember when,
Excuse me.
did Max and Esther immigrate, or did Bubby Annie immigrate? Do you remember when they?
No, I don't
Your
know.
mother and father married here.
Yes. But I don't know when.
They immigrated, but when, you don't know.
Don't remember.
And I heard that they came over and they married here. That's right.
And where did they move? Where did they come into? Did they first move into New York or Philadelphia?
I don't know if they lived in Europe. I know we lived on Ruby Street because that's where I was born.
And you lived with your mother and your
They
grandmother
all
and your
lived
great
together,
grandmother?
yeah, at that time,
In
yeah.
a big house, a little house?
I have no idea.
Well, Ruby Street would be
You
little
would-
houses
you-
anyway.
You wouldn't know either,
No.
And then your great grandmother passed away.
yeah.
Do you remember that?
I only remember that I saw her hair. That's all I remember is that she
That was
didn't have the
chiseled, what
white
they call it.
satin, didn't have the white satin slip, yeah. But no, I don't remember.
And that was on your dad's side.
Mother.
That's
That
the
was
mother's
my mother's
side.
side.
Mother's side.
Oh, but Max's, that
Max.
was Max's mother.
Yes,
That was
yeah,
Max's mother.
yeah.
And did you remember anything about Esther's parents?
Nothing.
No?
Not one thing. Not one thing.
Now, Esther was not your mother's
Real mother.
real mother.
But
We
My
have
mother
pictures, we
was-
have pictures
my
of your
mother
real
was
mother.
very young when,
Yeah, when she
yeah,
died.
so my mother only knew us.
No, when, when your grandmother died.
Yeah.
Okay, so Max was married before he married Esther?
Right.
Yes,
And did he have children with,
no.
No.
okay, so who, Anna's real mother was who?
I don't know.
You have pictures of her.
But,
So
okay,
Esther was just a stepmother for
Stepmother.
everybody,
Stepmother,
Yeah.
for everybody, yeah.
Right.
all of them.
But she was like a mother.
Right.
so she married in and she raised
So
all
Max
these
and
kids?
somebody had 4 children.
Right.
And then the mother passed away.
Right.
Do you remember
When she,
anything about that story?
no,
Are any of Joanna, Louise, or Sam still alive?
Sam
No.
is dead.
no.
Louise is dead. Johanna is
So
dead.
to her,
Yeah.
they're all dead.
And,
Louise became a streetwalker
that's right,
after she divorced,
Norman.
she became a streetwalker, remember?
Are any of your contemporaries still alive that are like, that would be your first cousins? Any of these like Herman or Arnold?
Arnold is, in fact, you have been in Arnold's company at all our affairs. Arnold Schmerelson,
And where does he live?
Philadelphia.
he lives in Philly.
So what was your life like when you were growing up? And do you remember, do you remember your childhood? Do you remember celebrating the Sabbath? Do you remember going to synagogue? Do you remember any of that? No?
So,
So she's told me that I've got a lame brain and she can't
I
remember.
don't remember anything of my childhood, I really don't.
You don't? Oh, I do.
so how about Bubby Annie married Robert? Do you remember any of like how they met or
Nope,
Any stories?
nope. Mm-mm.
what were they like? Do you remember growing up?
Were they happy?
My father never raised his hand. My mother, she would pick up anything and throw it at us.
It's hard to believe, but I've only known her after she was 80.
So your dad was real kind and you
My dad just had to look at us. We knew what we had to do. Never raised his hand. But if he would look at us, we knew that we had to either pick up clothes or get out of the room or whatever.
And where did you grow up?
West Philadelphia.
I grew up in West Philly on Beaumont Avenue. And that is the street that he was talking about, who he had
I went to
to
go visit Dinky.
visit Dinky,
Right.
remember?
Yeah.
Well, they lived right next door to me, 55, I lived at 5535, she lived at 5533.
Right. And so there were 3 of you. And then who's the oldest?
I'm the oldest. And
Jerry
my
is
brother
the
Jerome, who is called Jerry, is 6 years younger than I am.
When were you born?
21.
1921.
And then so Jerry was born
1927.
and then
Sandra was born,
1933.
right, we're all 6 years apart. Sandra's 12 years younger than I am.
And
What
do you
else?
remember growing up? Do you remember like playing with Jerry and Sandra?
And you're real close with Sandra now, so were you like a mother to her when she was a baby?
When I lived in West Philly, was it was 5415 Florence when we had the apartment.
Right.
My parents went to Florida. I took care of Sandra. We took care of Sandra. That's when she got rheumatic fever. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What happened when she got sick?
Well, we had the doctor. She had rheumatic fever. We took care of her. My parents were down in Florida at that time. My parents lived on Grange Street. That
What?
was, what do you call it?
That's North Philadelphia, Olney.
Sandra was a chunky kid. She's beautiful now and very thin, but she was chunky. And
One second. Because we have to eat dinner early.
Right.
I have these, I just heated one up, they're very good.
Okay,
Okay, we'll have that, some tomato fruit salad, whatever I
that?
have.
that's fine.
Okay?
Sure.
Interruption.
That's okay.
what else can I tell you?
So, what did Bubby Annie do?
Housewife.
Yeah, she was always a housewife.
Housewife.
She didn't work.
Did she have friends in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Yeah, the neighbors. You know, Betty Marinsky, which was
Next door neighbor.
next door neighbor.
Dinky's sister.
Dinky's,
Sister.
sister. And I don't remember too many friends.
Well, you had a group of girls there. You had, you.
Well, Sylvia, well, I have my mother, I
No,
don't remember my
you
mother.
had friends, you had Sylvia, and there was Dinky, and who else was there on the block?
Ruth Cohen.
Ruth Cohen.
So what did Robert Krevolin do? What did your family do?
He was a painter originally. He started off in the painting business for a real estate operator. Right?
Yeah, but then he opened up his own business.
Then he opened up his own business.
Arcade.
And when was that?
1919.
RK as in Robert Krevolin.
A-R-K-A-Y.
Oh, okay. RK, okay.
And 19, established 1919.
Right.
Interesting.
And he had Joe Krevolin as his partner. Joe.
Okay.
SOB Joe.
Why was he an SOB?
Oh, he was
He was a
nice.
miserable, nasty
He
person.
wasn't a nice person.
When I came into the business, he thought I was going to take his job away.
Yeah,
And he made it miserable for me.
because you were their son-in-law.
Oh, did he make it miserable? Seascape.
Correct, yeah.
And where did they build?
Well, we built in North Cape May. We built houses in North Cape May. We built apartment buildings. I built apartment buildings in Collingswood, New Jersey.
And that's where Don and Mark moved.
And that's where Don and Mark moved.
That's where Don and Mark moved when they
Right.
got married.
Exactly.
That's right.
And then they did home remodeling. Lots of it, lots of it, lots of it.
And what were they like socially? You've told me stories.
Who?
of Zeta and
Zeta was
Bubby
wonderful,
Annie.
wonderful.
He was loved by everyone,
Everyone.
and a very generous man. He paid for 2 orphan children. Do you remember that?
And he also paid for coal for a lot of families too
Yeah.
in the wintertime.
Yeah. But he took care of 2 orphan children. He was unreal. Everybody loved him. Everybody loved him. He was well liked. In business and in personal life.
I heard he was a sharp dresser.
Well, let's put it this way, that man,
People, he used to
people used to wonder what he,
on
particularly
the
down the
landings
shore.
at
Down the
6th.
shore, in those days, they had the chairs along the walk.
Core?
And sitting chairs, those rolling chairs, they
Rolling
used to
chairs.
line
They
them
used
up.
to
line them up, and you'd rent them by the season. And the people around him who sat on that boardwalk would always wonder what Bob's going to
Yeah,
wear.
they would
that
wait to see what he was going to wear.
He had a wardrobe, not expensive.
He was natty.
He was natty, is right.
His white pants and his navy blazer and his captain's cap. They always looked at him, always looked at him. He was
Dapper Dan,
he was
Dapper
a
Dan.
great,
he was.
great guy. When your parents got married, he brought a extra jacket. If he was wearing a tuxedo, he brought a white dinner jacket to the hotel.
Mhm.
And when the photographer was taking pictures, he changed his jacket. And he says, you better take a nice picture because this is the last time that you're going to get an opportunity to take a picture. After the wedding, your parents went home, and the next morning I had to call them to stop them from going on a honeymoon because he died. Now, they say, no one has come back to tell us, but people say
They have feelings.
that they have a feeling that they're going to die,
Uh-huh.
and that's what he said.
Mhm.
Your mother must have some pictures,
Mhm.
family pictures of I think almost everybody that you're talking about. I know that I think she took a picture of my mother as a younger child. She likes the antiques and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she may have it.
It sounds like you guys grew up pretty well off in your neighborhood. Did,
We had more than the average.
right?
16, I had my own car. We had more than the average.
Did it make growing up any easier on you? Or?
Oh, sure. Because I knew how to drive, but I had a very poor sense of direction. My girlfriend,
To this day, take her around the block and she's lost.
but my girlfriend didn't know how to drive, but she had a great sense. So I was at the wheel and she would sit next to me.
She was the
She was my
navigator.
pilot.
Navigator, not the pilot.
Navigator, no, we always had more than the average family had.
Did you ever take any family vacations when you were growing up? Do you ever remember being away with?
Family would go
Where
to
did you
Atlantic
go?
City.
To Atlantic City.
Sure, Connecticut Avenue. That's where everybody went.
And what did you do there?
Did you have Coquelin?
1 year, but
One
yeah,
year
we
they
always
had
had our own
coffee.
place.
What was that?
Coquelin is an apartment where they had a common kitchen.
They have rooming.
All the families.
You'd rent a room, but everybody would cook in one kitchen,
Right.
and you would have one shelf of the kitchen. But we usually had our own apartment. We always came down. In fact, the girl that I'm with now, we've been friends for so many years. I don't know how old we were, 16.
16 or so, you went looking for a job.
On the boardwalk, we got fed up with sitting on the beach. We went to, 1 year, near Steel Pier was called Mammy's. It was
Pancake house.
Pancake and waffles. We went in there. They hired us, but we never turned up for work. We were going to be the waitress. Now and at that time, people on the boardwalk got dressed.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
every
they
night.
wore their mink stoles, and the men were in tux on Saturday night. You got dressed with your long gowns. It's a disgrace now. It's a disgrace now. I mean, Steel Pier and Garden Pier.
Garden, Hammond's Pier.
Everything was so nice. The stores were elegant. They're honky tonk now. You don't know Atlantic City like it used to be.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Who's the next family you got to talk about?
So, well then, Aunt Sash and Uncle Jerry. I think we ran out of family.
No, you
We
didn't.
just, who did we miss?
Aunt Sash had two.
Well, right, so let's go through Aunt Sash and Uncle Jerry. So Aunt Sash, what's her story?
And Sash was married to
Lotman.
Herman.
Herman Lotman. No, Herman was Hank.
Charlie Lotman.
Charlie Lotman
She was married to Charlie Lotman.
had 2 children.
That was Herman and Sid. I'm sorry, Herman and Shelley.
Well, it's Hank.
Hank.
He changed his name, Hank.
Hank and
And Shelley.
Shelley.
Okay.
Now Hank got married to Citra, and they had 2 girls.
Yeah, but that was it.
Well, you got that genealogy.
Yeah, but that,
What?
Well,
Sandra
we'll get to Sandra in a minute.
was divorced from Charlie.
Right.
Yeah,
But when she was with Charlie, she
Right.
had 2 children.
That's it.
Right.
Then she divorced him.
Right.
and married Norman. Norman Feinberg.
Who had 1 daughter.
Right.
Interesting. And who is that?
You have to give me a minute. Oh, I can't think of,
In any event, Hank got married to Sidney,
Right.
and they had 2 girls.
Aubrey and Chelsea.
Right.
but Charlie was killed.
Right.
Yeah.
So hang on to that. So then there's Aubrey and Chelsea, and then Shelley.
Shelley
as
had 2 girls.
Lindsay. And Lindsay and Jennifer.
Right.
Okay. So what happened to Charlie Lotman?
Charlie Lotman remarried and lived in Florida. Charlie was a show-off, always carried a lot of money with him, a lot of jewelry. He went to one of the
Like
ice cream
7-Eleven or-
ice cream places to buy some ice cream. He came out,
Were his kids in the car?
no, he was by himself. He was robbed, killed, and dumped,
They shot him.
shot
In Florida.
in Florida.
And do you
Took his
remember
cash, took his money.
when this was, like what year?
Oh, no, I don't know.
Okay. But that was after they were divorced?
Oh,
yes.
sure.
He had remarried.
Did Charlie have the children? Hank
No.
and Shelley, or?
No.
No,
Sandra did.
Shelley had the children.
Shelley.
I mean, Sandra had the children.
But the father, Charlie, lived in Florida.
Yeah,
So did Hank and Shelley have any contact with the father?
Hank did.
Hank did. For a long time. Because Hank looked just like Charlie. But Shelley didn't. And after a while, well, what really was after he died, because he was friendly with Hank. He used to see Hank. And
Yes.
he used to, after he died, that's it.
Mm-hmm. And then Shelley married Mitchell Rambler.
Right.
Before I forget that. And they live in Baltimore, Maryland.
Right.
And Sidra still lives
In
in
Florida.
in Florida now. And then so, we'll come back to Hank later.
Okay.
But, so then Aunt Sosh married Uncle Norman,
Right.
Norman Feinberg. And how long have they been married?
20,
27 years.
Something, yeah. And then they had,
they had no children. Yes, they did.
oh, Jeff.
Jeff
Yeah.
and Jeff.
And where do they live now?
Harrison,
Harrison,
New
New
York.
York.
And they live in the home that was
Cardinal Spellman's
Cardinal
mansion.
Spellman's mansion. Is their home.
Mm-hmm. And then, so you don't remember Uncle Norman? Uncle Norman had a daughter from our first marriage.
Yes.
Begin with a D. Can't think of it.
All right. You see Aunt Sash this way. Did they ever live, did that daughter ever live with
No.
Norman?
No. She lived with her mother.
So Uncle Norman was divorced also.
Right.
Did you ever meet his previous wife? What was her name?
You ever meet this
You're
one?
gonna get a smack in the face one of these days.
You ever meet her?
Certainly, she lived up the street from Sandra.
Is this
That's
on?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on.
She lived up the street, I can't think of, she's got a funny name too.
Winnie.
Winnie,
That's it.
Winnie, well, tell the story then. You gotta tell the
All
story.
right, tell the story.
well, Norma was married to her and divorced her, married,
Winnie and Aunt Sandra are best friends.
now what was Winnie's Winnie's
Winnie's
daughter's
name?
name?
Mark will know. Mark!
Oh, God.
How about that? Yeah, we get enough brains around here, we'll catch up with everything.
Okay. All right, how about Uncle Jerry?
Uncle Jerry married Francis Cooper.
Francis Cooper.
Dory, and I remembered it.
What is it?
Dory.
Dory.
Right,
Said it began with a D.
Dory, you're right.
That was Norman's daughter's name is Dory.
Right.
How
So
about-
there's a Dory Feinberg somewhere,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's Jeff's half-sister.
right.
exactly.
Interesting. Has Jeff ever met Dory?
No.
I don't know.
Well, you don't think so?
Uh-uh.
Very interesting.
Norman doesn't even know where his daughter is. Come
Interesting.
on.
Why is that?
There's nothing.
Why is that? He wants nothing to do with her.
Norman likes pretty, well-built
Women.
women.
Mhm.
That's why he likes Shelley, that's why he likes Sandra, and Dory is
Is it?
chubby.
Not chubby. Fat, from what I understand.
Interesting.
He's ashamed of her.
I remembered.
So Uncle Jerry
Yes, you did.
married Francis Cooper.
Right?
Is there another story to this?
No, just that, when
She's eating chili.
I'm not, I'm making lunch, I'm putting everything I have out. It was Aunt Sasha's best friend. And when Aunt Sasha, don't put it on me.
It's on. I'm just making sure it's on. Because it's got a record voice now. Go ahead.
When Aunt Sash moved in with Mom, when she and her husband split, moved into Glenview Street with 2 children, and I was 16. And Aunt Sash owned a convertible. And she let me drive it to school. Well, I never drove a convertible. And she was really a very attractive woman. And she let me drive her convertible to school. And I remember picking up my friends from all over in the dead of winter in this convertible. And I picked up one of the girls and we stopped and we went through the glove compartment and there was a cigar in there that belonged to Norman. And these 4 girls and myself, we smoked a cigar. You know, you're 16, there was a cigar and we smoked it.
Right.
Yeah, I forgot that Sandra moved in
That's right.
our house with the
That's right.
kids.
Uh-huh.
And everybody had a time, 15 minutes in the bathroom, because everybody was going to school.
Right. So there was Uncle Jerry married Francis Cooper.
Right.
Do you remember going to their wedding? Like when that was?
Oh, sure. No,
Like around 1947? Was that before Mom was born or after? Uncle Jerry was born in 1927, so if he was 20 years old,
47.
47.
He was older than 20 when he got married, I
Okay.
think.
All right, so they got married at some point,
Yeah.
and then they had children. Who did they have children? Larry,
Lynn and Cheryl.
Lynn, and Cheryl. Okay. And then so Larry married.
Married
Debbie.
Debbie, who was a nurse in the hospital.
Okay.
They have 5 children.
5 children.
5 boys.
Okay.
5
Name
and
'em.
4.
5 basketball team. Name 'em.
These are your nephews.
Michael,
Right?
Kyle,
Right? She got them written down there.
And what kind of doctor is Larry?
Nephrologist.
nephrologist.
Which does what?
Kidneys.
Kidneys.
Okay. Interesting.
Always thought he would go for heart.
Okay, how about Lynn?
Lenny has got 2
Adopted.
adopted boys.
And did she get married?
Oh, yeah.
Who did she marry?
Howard.
Howard, what's her last name?
What's Lenny's last name?
Who?
Lamozoff. Lamozoff.
Zoff.
Okay. And then you said they have 2 adopted boys?
Right.
Yeah.
And what are their names?
Greg
And Matthew.
and Matthew.
And then how about Cheryl?
Cheryl is single. Still single. It's blinking, what does it mean? On a tape?
Maybe.
Yeah?
Maybe. Yep, getting close. Okay, hold on.
Better stop it. You back in again?
This is tape 2
Tape 2.
of Grandmom and Grandpa Rochestie. Okay, so
Larry had 4.
4 boys.
4
boys.
5.
4
Okay.
boys.
There was Robert,
Robert.
Blake,
Blake,
Kyle,
Okay.
and what was the 4th one now?
Michael, Kyle, Robert, and Blake.
that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
And then there's Lynn, who had 2 adopted boys, Greg and Matthew.
Right.
And then there's Cheryl, who's not married.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we're up to date
We're
there.
up to date. And then let's just go through your children real quick. Just for the record. So you had Myra,
Myra's the oldest.
and she was born in,
43.
He's good on dates.
all right. And then she got married.
She got married to,
Well, she was married and divorced within 6 months.
What was his name?
Norman. I don't remember his last name.
What was Aunt Myra's first husband's name?
Norman.
Norman what?
Mazer.
Oh, you're so
What-
right.
what- what-
Mazer.
Mazer, that's right.
She's right.
Married Norman Mazer.
They were divorced.
Divorced in 6 months.
All right. And
Now,
then-
And that's when
Norman
their mother got
Mazer's-
married.
Norman Mazer, after they got divorced, married my girlfriend Sue Schlissman's husband's sister.
So Mike Schlissman's sister?
Is married to Myra's first husband.
Really? Small world. Okay.
Small world.
And I didn't know that for years,
Yeah.
because Sue Schlissman and I had lost touch for a while.
Right.
But during that time, she married him.
Okay. And
And
then
then she married Alan.
Alan Katz.
Cats, right.
And they
And
had 2 children,
Joshua.
Joshua and
And Robert.
Robert.
Okay. Then you have Gary.
Barry.
Norman Mazer ended up driving a food truck.
No. How about real estate?
Norman Mazer owned a food truck that was on Temple or Penn or something,
Oh, what
or
did
a golf course. That's what he had at one point in his life.
Okay.
What happened to real estate?
He was, I don't know.
Okay. And then Uncle Gary.
Uncle Gary married Gail.
Straff.
You're so
They're
good.
so good.
I remember Straff.
Yeah. And they had the 3 children, the twin boys, and,
Russell,
Ash-
Dustin, and Ashley.
That's right.
Okay.
and then we have your mother.
The mother. Okay.
She's
So,
got 3 boys.
right. Do you remember any, let's see, any family events, any big weddings of like your aunts or cousins or anything that was
Bar mitzvahs.
bar mitzvahs?
Gary's bar mitzvah, wasn't it?
Gary had a family, bar mitzvah.
Gary had a bar mitzvah
At
at
the
the Drake
Drake
Hotel,
Hotel.
catered by Harry Davis.
Harry Davis. Everybody, all the women got orchids, and all the men got boutonnieres,
It was a formal affair.
and the cocktail hour was was just tables all around the place.
It was the League of Nations. They had Oriental, dressed as Oriental. They had Indian dressed as Hindus.
All kinds of food,
They
all
had-
kinds of appetizers. It was wonderful.
It was an affair where you started with a cocktail hour that was a meal in itself, and it went into the full meal, which was a meal in itself, and after that it was a full breakfast.
Breakfast. And
And on the
everybody
way
said,
out- and the way-
everybody said, who is going to eat a breakfast after such a dinner? You should have seen the line standing in for breakfast, because it was all buffet. And
It
when
was,
you-
it was, when you left, you got a morning Sunday paper.
and during the thing, you got bedroom slippers.
You
You
got
got
bedroom
slippers in case you wanted to take off your shoes.
It was,
It
that
was
was,
wonderful.
that was one grand affair
Yeah, it was a wonderful affair.
that we remember.
Were mom and dad close, were mom and Myra and Gary close to any of their cousins? Who did you hang out with when they were growing up?
Nobody in particular.
Did they know Larry and Lenny and Cheryl, or did they know?
Not really,
Not really.
because there was an age difference.
Right, 12 years.
It was an age difference.
So did you do much with
And
family?
they weren't in the same neighborhood.
Right. Were you close to family growing up, or was it mostly people in the neighborhood?
Growing up? I don't know about growing up.
We
but-
were friendly. We,
Yeah,
my side of the family, was close to the Tompkins family.
yeah.
Dr. Schloff. Did you know Dr.
No, before his time.
Was it before his time?
Yeah.
Was that a friend or a relative?
Cousin.
I was a
Cousin.
cousin. He was wonderful. No, you were never friendly with any of the cousins. No, we were too far apart.
We used to have Sunday morning breakfast where Zeta would sit at the front of the table, and back then we were too stupid to know, but they used to sit with a bottle of booze and drink breakfast away. We
Oh,
didn't know
that was really something, yep. We had to have the booze.
Hello?
And if friends came over for Sunday breakfast, we'd fill a bottle of booze. Sid? Oh, yeah. That
Well,
was
you
it.
know Sid and Claire Feinberg, I'm sure.
Were they relatives?
No,
Yeah, they're
friends,
friends.
friends.
And what was the story with Sid? Isn't there a story with Sid? No.
Not with Sid, with Sal.
I went with Sid when I was a kid, when I was 6.
Who is
Now, let me put it to you this way. Your mother went
No, not
with
his
Seymour.
mother.
No. Grandma went with Seymour. She went with Sid. She went with Sal.
And they're all friends.
And
They all
she
remain
married the
friends.
biggest S of all. Me.
Yeah, we're all friends.
So what was this, wasn't there a story with somebody else though that I heard?
Yeah, that, well,
Who
who
was
was
it?
it that you bumped over the head with a bat? You used to tell the story, how'd you meet Daddy, and you
Oh,
used to say,
the kids used to ask us
yeah,
how
how'd
we
you
met.
meet? And then Daddy would say that, the
Grandma,
Zeta,
Zeta.
Zeta bopped him over the head with a baseball bat, and then he was married.
That's the story I used to tell the kids.
Yeah, I'm friendly with all those. Back where we're at with one of the fellas, last night.
Yeah, Seymour.
Seymour last night.
Seymour's the-
Friendly with everyone.
Who's the one that looks like you?
Sid.
Sid Feinberg.
Okay,
Sid
and what's
Feinberg.
his story? What's the story with him?
Right now, it's a bad story. He just lost a kidney. But he used to work for Food Fair and he retired. He's the first one that really moved down here
Down in Florida, you know.
in Florida. I say, yeah, I am.
Here.
I am in Atlantic City, right? But we're
And you-
still friends.
You've known them for a long time?
50,
More.
57, more than 57.
If I was 16, 15, 16,
15 to 76
yeah, that's how much?
is 56 years.
56 years.
Yeah. And I think, who else we got on the
I
list there?
think that's all we have. We have Rita, Jerry, Sandra, Ann, and Robert. If there's any of the cousins, any of the Joanna, Louise, or Sam. But I think that's it. How about, get to bring this one up, but might as well, with Hank. What is,
Hank had one marriage to Citra.
And Sasha was not happy.
Well, may not have been happy with the marriage, that's true. But Hank was a millionaire at one time.
That's when Rod knew.
When he
Yeah,
lived in
when he lived
Boston.
in Boston.
right,
Yeah.
And real estate started to go bad, he moved out of there and he left.
Not only that,
Wait.
when he had the children, Aubrey was a sick kid.
Right.
And she had to get out of that weather. And that's why they moved to Florida.
But he was a self-determined man that he had to
He was
make
always in
good.
business for himself.
Always in business
And
for
he
himself.
couldn't work for somebody else.
why did he feel that? Because he had Norman as a stepfather.
Norman was no help to him.
Why was that?
He was the outsider. Hank was the outsider to Norman.
But I think it was
When-
Hank.
When Hank was a kid, and Sandra lived in Jenkins, married to Norman, Hank belonged to the Boy Scouts. Norman wasn't the kind to help him with a pack or he did it. If you ever come to Florida, I'll let you read a letter that Hank had on his computer. Is it a computer? Isn't that
Yeah,
right?
he printed it out, yeah.
Printed it out. That we were the only ones that had any faith in him, that were nice to him. And we always encouraged him. But he was very unhappy with the fact that he couldn't make a go of the business. It was a
His
Norman's business?
No, he
No.
was never
the
with
pretzel
Norman, the
business.
pretzel business.
Never with Norman.
Yeah.
The pretzel.
Hank had that business by the ball, so to speak,
I'm sorry, which
with the
business?
pretzels, with
Yeah.
the pretzels. The only thing that was lacking was money.
He was on the phone.
He had Sam's,
Costco,
Costco,
the Navy.
the Navy,
Army.
and he had Walmart lined up for his pretzels. He
Right.
needed the backing.
But we helped him.
We helped him as much as we
We
could.
could.
But
It
he
was a lot for us,
he needed a backing of better than $500,000, $750,000 to put that
Right.
deal over.
Yep,
He couldn't get it,
right.
and that's where it went down the drain.
And some people, every Christmas he would live with us for
Right.
2 weeks because he had to get out of his apartment because the owners would come down for the holidays.
That was the
So
rental
moved-
deal he had.
We loved him.
This was when he was in Florida?
Yeah.
Yes, we loved him. And that's after he was divorced from Citra. He was living by himself. And he liked to stay with us. We had a good time.
When he finally got to the point where things were starting to pick up, he rented a house, a brand new house, and furnished it for the kids and himself. It was beautiful.
And Citra was very nice. I
She
mean,
was nice to him.
she helped decorate, she made him curtains. I mean, they weren't on the outs. I mean, he would have dinner with him,
Right.
with her and the kids. I mean,
As a matter of fact,
they couldn't live together.
the Friday night before, he had dinner with Cinder and the kids. And she made him a sandwich to take
No,
home.
that was some Saturday.
Saturday.
Friday night, he was at our house. Saturday, he was at Sunday, he was at Citra's.
Right.
Because she had dinner and she made him a sandwich for work. And he forgot the sandwich. So she called him in the morning.
No answer.
Didn't have an answer. So she drove over, because they weren't far apart, to give him a sandwich. And that's who found him.
And what had happened?
That was September the 2nd.
Sitting in his car with the motor on in the garage.
In the garage.
Committed suicide.
And then they called, Sandra called me from the road. I didn't know whether she was crying or she was laughing and screaming. I couldn't understand her. But then she told me what had happened. I ran right over. And then she came down for the funeral, but we had to run to the detective and to the police station, and we had to get papers signed. Oh,
End of story.
Did Hank write a letter to the children?
everybody.
He wrote a letter
To
to Sandra, to the
everybody.
children, to Sidra, to us.
And what did he say?
I don't know what he said to Citra. You know what? I know other people would never believe us. We have copies,
Yeah.
I think, of everything that he had on his computer.
I
I never read that letter.
Never read that letter.
Didn't really, why?
Honest
No,
to
just
God,
didn't have an urge to. Never had an urge to.
somebody else would have read all those letters. We never did. He wrote to Sandra, he wrote to Cedric, he wrote to the kids too.
He did write to the kids.
He wrote to us. I don't know who else he wrote to. I just got the file and put it away. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. We were very close to Hank. Not only in Florida,
matter
we
of
were
fact-
close when we were,
Before we came north,
Mm-hmm.
we put a rose on the cemetery.
yeah, I go there once a month,
Mm-hmm. And where's he buried?
right near us.
Right near us in Boynton Beach.
Boynton Beach is right near us. So we managed to go there once a month.
Time to eat,
Yeah.
shut the machine
All
off.
right. Thank
We're done.
Is that done?
Yep.
Isn't that pretty?
Aren't they nice?
They look good.